underutilized region of our world, which is very rare to have something like this that is really underutilized, and bring online a whole new class of vehicle, which is also very exciting as a technologist. We're using really state-of-the-art balloon technologies to explore this whole new realm. So if I can make this go forward, am I using the right button? There we go. So introducing the Stratolite. So the Stratolite, as the name implies, is a satellite effectively, but instead of being in low Earth orbit, hundreds of miles above the surface of the planet, we are at that interface between the atmosphere and low Earth orbit, NewSpace, and we're at 20 miles above the surface of the planet. And one of the aspects of what we are doing is really providing true persistence. So with a balloon, imagine loitering, you're floating like an ice cube on the top of the atmosphere, and you can stay over a single area of interest for weeks, months. Our aim is a year. And you can also have access to this environment incredibly easily. That's launch infrastructure. What you're looking at there is what it takes to launch a Stratolite, which is very little. And so you can rapidly deploy it almost anywhere, and we can get the instruments back again. So the kinds of applications that we're looking at are incredibly varied. So for example, if we had had Stratolites when Katrina hit, we could have had communications payloads on board. We could have co-located that, surveillance payloads, so that we could not only have provided people with the ability to talk and say where they were, we could have had the first responders find them where they were. We also communications in remote locations. So if you think of these things, that they can operate anywhere around the planet, but you can launch them and then fly them to where you want. So for example, you could go to an area that has currently little or no communications right now and put one or more Stratolites to service this area with communications. You could put it over the ocean where almost nothing can get to. Of course, satellites can go over the ocean. But unless you have a GeoBird, it's going to be very difficult to get true persistence for extended periods of time over the ocean. Of course, remote sensing is an area of great interest, and we're getting incoming interest for all of these areas. Weather. One of the interesting things about weather is that most of the data that we have, aside from what comes from satellites, comes from weather balloons. Our weather balloons go up, of course, over the land, because humans are launching these weather balloons. Where most of our weather starts is over the oceans. And there's almost no in situ data over the oceans, whereas you can put these Stratolites right over the oceans and gather the weather right where it's happening. And of course, research. A lot of research to do up there. And in fact, our CTO, Tabor McCallum, with whom I have worked for a very long time, his father, this is a picture of his father, one of the balloons that he was working with in the 70s that was taking large telescopes up to the edge of space and studying our black hole at the center of our Milky Way galaxy. So this technology, the basis of this technology, has been around for decades. And in fact, the US Air Force was using the early versions of these ballooning technologies to really study the space environment. It was really some of the early astronauts, if you will, were exploring this whole new realm of space that nobody knew very much about. And they were using these balloons to do so. And in fact, the first people to see the curvature of the Earth were these people here in 1935. And Joe Kittinger, this is really a storied history in this. It's just a spectacular history of ballooning. Of course, it actually dates all the way back to the 18th century. It was some of the very first gas-filled balloons. These are gas-filled, lighter than air. And so Joe Kittinger, back in the 60s, with the Man High, was really pushing the envelope on understanding life support systems for the space environment, and then also learning about descent systems. And then you may have seen a few years ago the Red Bull Stratos jump, where Felix Baumgartner jumped from the stratosphere using a capsule. He had some terrible issues doing that, almost died, spinning out of control. So our team, actually had Alan Eustace, Google executive Alan Eustace, came to us a few years ago and said, hey, do you think we could do it without capsule? It seems that the capsule is for this particular thing is really dangerous. So let's go and explore the stratosphere in this whole new way. And so we took Alan up in a spacesuit, and in 3 years we went from napkin to flying him 3 times to the ever higher altitudes, and eventually to 136,000 feet from where he space dived. And this is a balloon. This is one of the balloons that we took. Now, this is a fairly classic balloon as well. This is what we call classic short flight, because that's what it is. It's a classic traditional way of using a balloon to go to the stratosphere, not the same kind of system that we use. But this system here, I'm going to show you a video here because you've got to see the video of a... wait, I forgot. I've got a picture of the highest flying rollerblades that you'll ever see. You'll never see somebody with rollerblades on the front of their spacesuit. This was actually part of testing before we took Alan all the way up. We had to do a bunch of jumps out of airplanes to test the way that we got Alan down. Our team is incredibly innovative, and they managed to get a system to bring him down super safely without all the spinning. But we had to throw him out of an airplane. And so the way to get him out of an airplane, because he weighs 450 pounds with the suit on, was by laying him on his front and pushing him out the back. So there is a documentary that's coming out about this computer screen near you soon that will have all of the excitement in it. But here's a very short version for you. I might add that this is not part of our business model. We are not planning on routinely having people space dive. Is there any sound? I mean, it doesn't really matter, but it's cool. It's cool music. You might turn it down. So ballsy, I'm sorry. Just turn it. Perfect. So there he is in his spacesuit underneath a balloon that once it gets to altitude is the size of a football stadium. You can literally pick up an entire football stadium and spin it around inside. And so there he is going up at 1,000 feet per minute. So this is incredibly gentle ascent. It takes him 2 hours to get up there. There he was just released. Now he's doing free fall because one of the records he broke was free fall. So he free fell for almost 5 minutes. He broke the speed of sound, and then he safely opened his parafoil at about 12,000 feet above the ground and came in for a very elegant landing. This was his best landing. He does have 250 pounds of life support system on his chest, and he's also in a very restricted spacesuit. So you can't really do the full thing that you do if you're flaring. And then this is all of the people that an army of people that we had making sure that he would be safe when he landed. So this is the team that did that, and it was an extraordinary project. Not only because we were really breaking records. It was just, for people who have been in aerospace for many, many years, doing things as quickly as that, where you go from napkin to flight in 3 years was spectacular, and it was a really exciting thing to do. And it really demonstrated the team. So this team is what is bringing these new satellites to life. now, and also all of that technology is some of the underpinnings of what we're doing with the Stratollates. The founders of Worldview, you see astronaut Mark Kelly in the middle, and on the right-hand side is Dr. Alan Stern. If you recently saw those amazing photographs coming back from Pluto, he's our chief scientist, really understands robotics, which is awesome. And then Tabor McCallum and I are the other two co-founders. I'm the CEO and Tabor is the CTO. And Tabor and I have been working together for a little while. So some of you might remember, some of you are way too young to remember, but some of you might remember 25 years ago, this year, 8 of us spent 2 years and 20 minutes in Biosphere 2, planet Earth being Biosphere 1. And Biosphere, there's a marsh and an ocean and all kinds of exciting things in there, but it was intended to be, oh, here's us going in. There's me giving the Queen wave 25 years ago, and Tabor's got his hand over his face. This was really one of those handful of private space companies that was on Joe's presentation earlier. Spacevidcast Ventures did this. I would say as a business model, it was probably about 100+ years ahead of its time because it was really about being a prototype space base for Mars. I think we're a little ways from that now. So the company pivoted and is now doing some really exciting things in on planet Earth, really understanding how our Earth works. University of Arizona runs it, actually. But it was an incredibly exciting project for us to be involved with, and was very much an inspiration for what we're doing at Worldview today. This is Mark Kelly's twin brother, Scott Kelly. You know, one of the things I have heard in my many decades of being in the space world is from astronauts who go to space, and many of them talk about how I really thought I was going to this great unknown, and what I really discovered was planet Earth for the very first time. And so this is, of course, an extraordinary picture looking out of the International Space Station, where he was for a year, which I'm sure he has a lot of interesting stories about that. And this was the early inspiration for the company, for Worldview. We initially were a human spaceflight company, and we still are. We are still developing our tourism aspect of the business. I think it's an incredibly vibrant line of business. I think it's uncorrelated with the Stratolite business, so it's very exciting. This is a capsule that we will be developing, and underneath the balloon is the same kind of thing. It's very differentiated from what you'll see out there right now because it's so gentle. You can be up there for hours, these huge windows, 6 passengers, 2 crew. We just hired astronaut Ron Garan this year to be our chief pilot. Awesome guy. So he's not only the chief pilot for this, but he's also developing all of the piloting aspects of our Stratollites in the sense of bringing down the instrument safely back to Earth. So last year we did a 10% scale mass simulated version of our capsule system, and I think and then this is how you bring it down under a parafoil. And so our guys are the only people that have flown parafoils from 100,000 feet. And the reason that's important from a business perspective is that you get long cross range, and so you get pinpoint landing, so you can bring your instruments safely back and land them wherever you need to land them. So it's really enabling capability. So here's a quick video that kind of shows you a classic balloon launch, and this is us with a 1,000-pound payload taking this to the edge of space. And the imagery here is simply from GoPro cameras, but with not very much imagination, I'm sure you can imagine the kind of fidelity and resolution that we could get on a platform like this with any kind of higher grade system. So here we are. We happen to fly over a beautiful area, which is up in northern Arizona on the north rim of the Grand Canyon. And here you're looking down over Lake Powell. This was a test flight for our commercial tourism. But it was also a test flight for our Stratolite systems because so much of the technology transfers between the two. And then, as you see, of course, here we are flying back down now. That's flying at 100,000 feet under parafoil, coming back down to land. Here we did not land on a runway yet because this is early testing, but the plan would be to land on runways. So this was a test that we did last year. This is just one of the numerous tests we've done, but this kind of gives you a demonstration. This is what we're really focusing on this year. This is the persistence. This is how our team is enabling us to really stay over an area to provide persistence. We do make our own balloon systems, and also in this photograph, we're really excited that this year we not only did Space Angels get involved in our recent round, which was awesome to have them in this round again, but also Kane and Partners in Norwest. And in this photograph, if you know Deepak, you'll see him there in the front row. We're also very excited to announce that Tom Ingersoll, who is the CEO of Skybox, is on our board. So we're not only do we have incredible world-class engineering and technical team, we're really excited to have a world-class investor team working with us and doing great things. This is a cool photograph. I mean, where are you going to see a picture of the limb of the Earth from inside a balloon? That's pretty cool. This shows one of the things that over the many years that I've been involved in space, access to space is something that is just a mantra. We need access, we need access, we need access. So this is the flights we've done in the last couple of years. And we're not anywhere near scaled yet, right? This is over 50 flights that we've already done, 3 of them human flights. Our early revenue is in our classic short flight system, so we've already got flights going with numerous customers, including NASA and people like that. We're a flight services company predominantly, so at this point in time, we're agnostic to what we fly. So we have a number of different exciting partnerships that we're getting ready to announce from all manner of both commercial and DoD applications as well. We also had a lot of interest from states. I was very happy that the state of Arizona stepped up, and they are building this facility for us. It's actually growing out of the ground as I speak right now, Pima County and the state. So this is our own facility co-located with Spaceport Tucson, which is going to be right there. So we'll be able, and it's also right next door to Raytheon, so strategically placed there as well. So there's a lot of excitement in Arizona around this, and it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's really exciting to go to a launch. Now, I've been to a lot of rocket launches. I went to the last shuttle launch, which was bittersweet. Oh, it was a sad moment. This is very different. This is silent, and it's very gentle. So in conclusion, and in summation, I'm very excited that we get to really leverage a greenfield opportunity at the edge of the thin blue line of our planet. And this, I really think, is a new space to watch. Thank you. I think we're out of time, so I'll take any questions later. I don't see anybody leaping up, so I'm going to run out. Oh, somebody's leaping up.
So I just wanted to ask you, how do you keep the Stratolaunch system from, in one place and not drifting around the planet?
Yes, exactly.
Tell us that yet.
That is the secret sauce. And an aspect of the secret sauce is very simple, but oh so hard to do. So it uses the winds. So we use buoyancy control. And what is really wonderful. I love how the planet works. It delivers things for us to use. And in this instance, it's the winds that go in different directions at different altitudes. And so we get very accurate, very rapid altitude change so that we can literally go to different altitudes to stay in one spot. That then also allows us to do waypoint navigation. So we can fly over areas of interest. So you saw in that one picture I showed a very tight circle. You also saw that we kind of started in one place and then we flew to it and then we flew on. So we can do that. So we can fly to an area, loiter over it, and then cruise on to another area.
Oh, so no thrusters or anything like that are needed?
No, at this juncture, we do not think there's thrusters needed. Certainly not for most of the time. There might be short periods of the time in the year where we may need more than one stratolite over an area. But at this point, no, not necessary.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, keep it simple. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to go for it.
Okay.
Okay. So, how did you? I don't know if you can answer this.
I don't know.
How did you solve the spin problem with you?
Oh, I can answer it. That I can answer. How did we solve the spin problem?
Yes.
So, Joe Kittinger, when he jumped, he used a drogue. And a drogue is a fairly common thing now. It's a very tiny parachute that doesn't really slow you, but it stabilizes you. And it's a little tiny thing. Think of it like a shuttlecock. And you kind of have it on the back here, and it catches just enough air that it stops you from spinning. But the problem that Joe had was rather unfortunate in that it was made of, as you think of a parachute, right? All of the strings come out and join to the parachute. Well, you're in free fall. So imagine what happens. It wrapped around his neck. So when Felix jumped, they went, well, to hell with that. We're not going to use it because I don't think I want to have that. He was a real professional skydiver. So he assumed he was going to be able to stop himself from spinning. And if you were one of the many millions like me who was watching it real time, we were all, as the guy was wildly spinning out of control.
Yes.
So what our team did was take the idea of the drogue, but very ingenious and very simple, used a carbon rod, effectively, that shoots out and holds it away from him. So that there's no way you get this benefit of this drogue that stops him from spinning without him getting all tangled up in it, which is a very simple solution, but was not an obvious one. And I love simple solutions. They're always the best.
A sort of corollary to that is if you're actually opening up that chute on your human capsule at altitude, are there any issues there because of the, how thin the atmosphere
More
is?
secret sauce. I love it. So one of the great things is that we've been flying now at those altitudes. And indeed, the atmosphere is very rarefied.
Yes.
And so there are things you have to do that are that ensure that the wing stays open and that it flies. Now, wings want to fly. They just do. So it flies just fine.
Okay.
And we've done pretty extensive testing now.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Josh from Aviation High School Satellite Team. You mentioned using Stratolites to do stuff normally reserved for conventional satellites. So when you have a more established market where people are paying for you to do things with Stratolites, if the comparison can even be made between objectives for conventional low Earth orbit satellites and your product, what kind of cost comparison would there be per pound to get stuff to the top of the atmosphere?
So I'm not talking about cost today.
Okay.
I'm happy to talk with you out there.
Okay.
But I think this is live streaming.
Okay.
So we think of ourselves as somewhat disrupting large UAVs If you think about large UAVs, they can carry a fair amount of payload, but they can't go very high, and they can't necessarily stay up for very long. And we are significantly less expensive, a couple of orders of magnitude less expensive than per hour than a large UAV to fly. So in terms of the satellite world, of course, it completely depends whether it's a large satellite or a small satellite, geobird, and all the rest of it. But really, some of the areas that I was talking about that are the sweet spots, are the things that traditional satellites, in the way we currently think about them, which of course is evolving over time, as more and more people work in this space, is in the areas of true persistence. We can really stay over an area, whereas you're having to simulate persistence with a satellite, unless it's a geobird, which is of course very expensive to get it up there. So true persistence is one of the key factors that differentiates us from what we think of as the traditional NewSpace world of satellites. Yeah.
Hi, Jane. I'm Alan Boyle with GeekWire. And I wanted to ask, there was talk about having a flight of a full-scale mock-up of the capsule this year. Maybe you could update us on that, and also on construction for a spaceport Tucson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks
bet.
for asking. Yeah. So we are really focused on our satellite system this year. Although I think, as I said earlier, that translates to lots of development in the Voyager system. We are going to be probably doing that particular flight early next year. It has slipped a little bit. We're going to be getting in the full-scale mass simulator. Will actually be coming in-house in a month or two. So we're starting to work that up. But there's been a lot of work going on in this parafoil area this year as well. So that's particularly great for the Voyager system, because frankly, when you think about it, from our point of view, it's sort of somewhat the opposite of satellite industry. Getting up there is easy, because you've got gravity working for you, because you've got the balloon is just lifting you gently up to the edge of space. And for us, the operational, not risk per se, but the thing that we really want to hone in so that everybody has a spectacular time coming back down, is this flying part with the parafoil. So we're really excited that we get to do that many, many, many times with the unmanned systems first before we put people on it, which is awesome. And then in terms of Spaceport Tucson and all of that, the pad's being poured. I mean, it's moving. It's awesome. We can see it growing. That picture that you saw there, we were literally seeing it growing out of the ground. And so we hope to be in it by the end of the year. Come on down. Come and see us.
I will.
Cool.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Hi, this is beautiful and fantastic, and I want to congratulate you on a lovely performance and just a great idea. I'm Alice Hoffman of the National Space Society, and I want to go, and I think a lot of our members will want to go.
Awesome.
Is there a free fall component in when you do the crew capsule? And about when do you think you'll be ready to do that?
Yeah, we're not publishing a date. We really are not wanting to be constantly slipping a day, right? So we're not. It's a couple of years, probably. That kind of time frame. We're not 10 years out. We're not next year. So there isn't a free fall period per se. So the way it works from a flight profile is the capsule goes up underneath the balloon just the way Alan did, and it'll take about an hour and a half to get to the top, and you can imagine that it's pre-dawn, and there's this amazing window that you're looking out, and there's ridiculous stars. And then when you get up there, the sun starts to rise, start to see the curvature of the Earth and the terminus moving across the Earth below you. Oh, and by the way, we have a bar on board, so you'll be able to drink your beverage of choice. And whilst you're on Facebook or whatever your social media of choice is.
A tequila sunrise.
All right, nice. And then when it's time to come down, an hour or so later, the system will detach from the power wing will already be pre-deployed. Then you detach from the balloon and you immediately start flying down. So there's a few seconds of, you're strapped in, of course, so you're not really going to go anywhere. So there's a few seconds of sort of feeling a little light, but you're not going to, nothing is clunky. There's very smooth. We've already measured the G-forces all the way through the flight profile, and it's fabulous. So we're really wanting to make something that is truly accessible.
And how long does it take to get down?
Oh, yeah, good point. About an hour.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Fantastic.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, so now we're going to go to lunch.
The utilized region of our world, which is very rare to have something like this that is really underutilized, and bring online a whole new class of vehicle, which is also very exciting as a technologist. We're using really state-of-the-art balloon technologies to explore this whole new realm. So if I can make this go forward, am I using the right button? There we go. So introducing the Stratolite. So the Stratolite, as the name implies, is a satellite effectively, but instead of being in low Earth orbit, hundreds of miles above the surface of the planet, we are at that interface between the atmosphere and low Earth orbit, NewSpace, and we're at 20 miles above the surface of the planet. Launching these weather balloons, where most of our weather starts is over the oceans. And there's almost no in situ data over the oceans, whereas you can put these Stratolites right over the oceans and gather the weather right where it's happening. And of course, research. A lot of research to do up there. And in fact, our CTO, Tabor McCallum, with whom I have worked for a very long time, his father, this is a picture of his father, one of the balloons that he was working with in the 70s that was taking large telescopes up to the edge of space and studying our black hole at the center of our Milky Way galaxy. So this technology, the basis of this technology, has been around for decades. And in fact, the US Air Force was using, and so you can rapidly deploy it almost anywhere, and we can get the instruments back again. So the kinds of applications that we're looking at are incredibly varied. So for example, if we had had Stratolites when Katrina hit, we could have had communications payloads on board. We could have co-located that, surveillance payloads, so that we could not only have provided people with the ability to talk and say where they were, we could have had the first responders find them where they were. We also communications in remote locations. So if you think of these things, that they can operate anywhere around the planet, but you can launch them and then fly them to where you want. So for example, you could go to an area that has currently little or no communications right now and put one or more Stratolites to service this area with communications. You could put it over the ocean where almost nothing can get to. Of course, satellites can go over the ocean. But unless you have a GeoBird, it's going to be very difficult to get true persistence for extended periods of time over the ocean. Of course, remote sensing is an area of great interest, and we're getting incoming interest for all of these areas. Weather. One of the interesting things about weather is that most of the data that we have, aside from what comes from satellites, comes from weather balloons. Our weather balloons go up, of course, over the land because humans are. And one of the aspects of what we are doing is really providing true persistence. So with a balloon, imagine loitering, you're floating like an ice cube on the top of the atmosphere, and you can stay over a single area of interest for weeks, months. Our aim is a year. And you can also have access to this environment incredibly easily. That's launch infrastructure. What you're looking at there is what it takes to launch a Stratolite, which is very little.